Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum to everyone who's joining us live from around the world. If you're watching this recording, also assalamu alaikum to you. Peace be upon you all. Thank you so much for joining us on this live webinar and live stream on how to set goals like a gardener, inshallah ta'ala. We're super excited to be here and super excited to get started. But first, inshallah ta'ala, we'll start off with our show. I'll be here in a couple of seconds, inshallah ta'ala. Let me get started. Give me just 1 second. You just will check something and we'll get started, inshallah, very, very soon, inshallah ta'ala. All right, welcome back everybody. So today's live stream is all about how to set goals like a gardener. And I want to talk about this idea. I know most of us right now are in that planning stage, are thinking about what our plans are for the next year. Most of us are, starting to think about, reflect on how this year went, what went well, what went crazy, what didn't go so well, and start to put our hopes and dreams in the upcoming year and start to think about how to plan the upcoming year. I want to start off by saying that this whole idea of planning and setting goals, it's a very human quality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God has blessed us with a faculty that enables us to perceive the future. Think about, for example, a cat or a goldfish or some kind of animal creature. They don't normally sit down and go, okay, what's my plan for the next 6 months or next 1 year or next 10 years? They are thinking about sort of in the moment, right? They're very, very much in the moment. But as human beings, we've been endowed with this ability to perceive the future, to contemplate the future, to imagine ourselves in the future, to almost imagine our future selves and what our future selves might need, and start making decisions today, start putting plans today, start directing our will today towards that sort of future version of ourselves. And this human ability is a huge blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a huge blessing from God, because imagine if you did not have the ability to plan the future, to perceive the future. Think about the impact that might have had on you, on your life. Just think about whether trying to go to school, try and get a job, or try and get married or start a business, if you had no ability to perceive the future. And in fact, there are some people who unfortunately have some brain injuries that impact their perception of the future and how they plan for the future. And it can be very detrimental to the quality of life and getting anything meaningful done in life. So if planning is a human quality, and planning is something that we all do, what is this whole idea of setting goals like a gardener, and what sort of went wrong with the planning planning industry? Right now, we live in a world where planning has been taken to an extreme, where planning now is almost being taken as there's an obsession with planning that honestly we have not seen before, and it's impacting our spirituality, impacting how we live life, and impacting how we deal when things don't go our way. I want to start off by sharing with you a drawing that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, drew for his companions, which I think might explain this a little bit better and the kind of human quality of planning. So I want to switch my screen here a little bit, and I'm going to scoot off a little bit here. And this idea of planning, so think about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one day was sitting with his companions, and he drew a box, right? He drew a box in the sand. He drew a box like this, and then he drew a line. And then the line extended outside of this box. And then he drew some lines that go in between here, okay? And then he explained and said that this line that's inside this box, this long line inside this box, this is the human life, right? This is the human being or the human life. And he said, this box, this square box outside, this is the lifespan of the person, which means this is kind of like you can talk about like here is like the end of their life, start of their life, end of their life. This is the lifespan of the person. And this part is the human being's hope. right? We always hope, we always plan. Most of us, think about it, most of us plan beyond our future. Maybe we also plan, think, oh, we're going to do this, Y, X, Y, and Z. We have all these plans set up ourselves. We have, all these ideas. And this hope normally extends beyond kind of like our lifespan. And then he said these lines here, these sort of vertical lines here, these are the trials and tribulations that affect the human being, that come in the way of this human being as they go through life. Think about COVID, think about the pandemic, think about some life setbacks, illnesses, diseases, challenges, family issues, all those sort of things. So this idea, so here there's few ideas here that I want us to sort of, the Prophet is kind of alluding to and giving us ideas of. Number one, all of us as human beings, we have those who set those plans, set those goals. It's part of our human nature, right? It's part of human to set these goals, to set those plans. But to recognize that not all of our plans will be achieved. There is some parts of our plan that will be just beyond our lifespan, beyond our basically the life we're going to live. The second idea here, and that is also important, is that things don't always go according to plan. There will be these setbacks, these blocks that will come along the way, and you can expect them. And that they sometimes, change the perception of our life, change the perception or the trajectory of our life, and change our hopes and dreams. But it's important to notice that that's also part of life. That's also part of this sort of human life that we go through. And this concept, as simple as it sounds, as you might think, well, this is great, that this is nice and easy and simple, is slightly different for how we now come to do our planning. Think about the current state of our planning goal setting. Most of you probably heard this before from your self-help gurus and everyone out there. They'll tell you, imagine yourself in the future, go and cut up some pictures of magazine and create a vision board. Imagine yourself living in a specific house. Imagine yourself living in this environment. Imagine that you're doing this type of job. And think about what that does. Think about that goal setting framework that is, number one, very egocentric driven. It's usually about yourself, myself and I. It's about me, what I want out of life, right? A lot of us think about our goals from that perspective, what I want out of life, me, myself and I. It's very egocentric, very individualistic. Rarely would someone think from a perspective of family, perspective of community, perspective of society, perspective where you want to go in life. So it's very, I call the hustle culture planning, very egocentric. The second thing, a lot of this planning is very worldly focused. It's all about what I want out of this life, what I want in my 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years I'm live here. And is very worldly focused and not about the hereafter. We'll talk about this in a minute. Very worldly focused. Think about it. Cut pictures of magazine, how your body should look like, what sort of relationship you'd like to have, what sort of house you'd like to have. It's very, very worldly focused. And the third thing about this type of planning is it's very outcome, what I call image driven. Again, you have a specific image of how things should work out for you. And if things don't go as planned, that's when you get annoyed. That's when you get stressed. That's when you get frustrated. That's when you get depressed because you had a specific image of what your bank account should look like. You have a specific image of what your house should look like. You have a specific image of what your family should look like. You have a specific image of what your life should look, what your future self should look like. And that image, you become almost worship that image. You almost like became slave that image. And when things didn't go like what you had in mind, you get frustrated, you get annoyed, and dare I say, you get also upset at the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at what Allah has written for you, and you become ungrateful and feel like, what's wrong? Why does Allah do this to me? What did I do wrong? I didn't deserve this. I went through all life. Why I didn't go through all this? All these questions start popping up because the way we plan and the way we set goals is egocentric, worldly focused, and outcome image driven. What I call the hustle culture approach to this drive. Now, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, you might think, well, I can hear what's wrong with that, but what's wrong with that? Meaning, like, what's wrong with having a visualization exercise and putting a vision board and imagining a really bright future for yourself? There's nothing. Do you expect us to kind of be like, expect the worst from our life? No. What's wrong with this approach of planning is that it goes against our purpose in life, right? As Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes humanity's purpose of life. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I've not created mankind and jin's another creature Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, except to worship me, right? And this idea of worship, I know sometimes we hear that like, well, I pray, I fast, I do all the stuff that worship requires of me, I give charity. But worship in Islam is beyond just the rituals. Worship in Islam is the rituals plus it's a state of being. It's the state of you thinking, I'm a slave of God. I'm being asked to act like a slave of God, and I need to plan my life as a true slave of God. So this idea of how do you plan in line with our purpose in life. So that's the first kind of purpose in life we have in Islam. The second purpose in life is to, as Allah described it in the Quran, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I'm putting a deputy, a vicegerent, a deputy on earth. Imagine you are God's deputy on this earth. The idea of you being a deputy, right? The idea of that you are taking care of Allah's creation. The idea of you're responsible, right? Allah's Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, all of us are shepherds and all of us are responsible for a flock, right? For some of us, it's our family. For some of us, it's our children. For some of us, it's society, depending on your role in life. Some of us, your company, your team, your organization. We're all shepherds. We all have this responsibility to take care. It's some kind of responsibility. You see, the hustle culture approach, or the approach of goal setting that all of us have fell for, it's all about myself and I. It's all about what I get from this world, and it's all about the images we have in our mind. But when we start recognizing our true purpose in life, that I'm here to worship, and worship in its holistic sense, worship in its overall sense, worship in its, basically worship God fully, that holistic approach to worship, that holistic approach to of being a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every moment, that will dictate how you set goals, how you set plans, how you approach life, basically. I want to pause here first and make sure that this makes sense, because sometimes, again, all of us we've bought into the narrative that I need to, set goals in a specific way, right? I need to bought in the narrative of visualizations, all that stuff. Again, these are tools which are helpful. But when they are set, when we forget our purpose and are not driven by our purpose, it can get messy. It can start getting annoying. It can start getting frustrating. And I'll explain more as we go into this workshop. So, what's wrong with this idea of setting goals, that having the vision boards of what my perfect life should look like, and being results driven, and trying to plan my perfect home, or perfect business, or perfect life? Well, like I said, the challenge there is it's distracting you from your true purpose in life. Let me give you a story, and maybe this story will help put things in perspective. Imagine that there was you reported to a king, right? So there's a king that said he has two kingdoms, right? And the king said to you, I'm going to send you to my other kingdom, and I want you to take care of certain business there. I want you to represent me there and do certain things for me there, and come back and let me know how things are. You're like, great, sounds good. So you go on a journey, and you reach that second kingdom. You go there, and whoa, it's an amazing place. Lots of things to do, lots of fun stuff there. And you think, great, this is an amazing place. And you get distracted. You start setting goals and plans and building a beautiful home and start your own business there, and you collaborate with people instead of all this amazing stuff and projects. But you're there for a purpose. You're there to represent the king and do the king's work there and help the kings do the work. But you're so distracted. You're just so busy with all the other things except what you're sent there for. Now, to Allah belongs the best examples. In a way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us to this earth, and He gave you two job descriptions. Number one, a vertical job description, which is your relationship with Him. How's your relationship with Him day to day, week to week, how you live moment to moment as a true slave of God. And number two, the horizontal approach, or I call the horizontal role, which is how you're taking care of God's creation, how you represent yourself, how you take care of the environment, how you take care of those around you, how you take care of your family, how you live this life for His sake. That story is basically our story. Our story is we are so distracted, so kind of, almost enamored, taken by this world and distractions. We're putting all these plans. And once I was doing a coaching call with somebody about a couple of weeks ago. And when I talked about purpose of life is to worship God, they were like, well, is that it? Is that it? And I remember that question, the fact that they were asking the question, is that it, made me realize that all of us, including myself, sometimes we completely forget then if it's not for worship of God, then why are you here, right? Why are you here? If that's not enough for you, that you are here to be a slave of God. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not asking you to sort of, hunker down in a mosque and just sit back and be in a state of worship. The state of worship that I'm asking you to be is a state of being, is saying that every moment of my life, every project I'm involved with, the way I deal with people, everything is in that idea of service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, idea of worship and being a deputy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the level of plan. That's the plan we need to start working towards. So Allah has given us His faculties, this ability to plan. What would it look like when you start planning not for yourself? When you start planning in a God-centric approach, where everything you do, it's almost like you're asking God's permission. Is should I focus on this or not? Should I do this or not? Whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a business, whether it's taking care of taking care of your family on vacation, everything is linked to that perspective. Is this pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this pleasing to God? And that approach to life, number one, is very beautiful, it's very spiritual, and you'll see that you feel that you are living your purpose versus just kind of like, again, one of the interesting things about planning for yourself and for yourself and I is you develop this arrogance, right? Because you feel you are in control of your destiny, right? Very famous self-help, unleash your destiny, take control of your destiny, right? And then when things don't go your way, when destiny doesn't happen according to what you have in mind, you get really upset. You get really annoyed. You feel like, why? What happened? What's wrong? What's going on here? Versus living a God-centered approach where you feel like I'm here to worship, I'm here to be a slave, I'm here to give. And if things work my way, I thank God. And I know that it's a blessing. Allah has given me this. He has opened this for me. He has allowed this gift to come for me. And if things don't go my way, I get patient. I persevere. I feel like this is a test, a trial that I'm gonna go through, and it's a much more healthy relationship with when life doesn't turn our way. Think about 2020, right? Life didn't go our way for a lot of us. How you deal with that, how you tackle that, how you approach life, being God-centric helps. And again, we live in a world sometimes that, especially with a secular lifestyle, we feel very uncomfortable of being slaves of God, very uncomfortable of fulfilling our purpose in life, because we've almost been brainwashed, this idea of you being a slave, or no, you're in control of your destiny. What do you mean that even for sometimes in Islamic circles talk about this, like, you should control what you have in mind. I mean, be careful. There is an element here of being God-centric, being focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you focus on that? Beyond the acts of worship. Yes, the acts of worship are important. The prayer, the fasting, the charity, the hajj, all that are important. But beyond that, your day-to-day, from your to-do list to everything else you do, how do you plan your purpose in life? So, the second thing is the hereafter focus. That as you plan, how do you align your plans for the hereafter? Think about it. This year in 2020, I think a lot of us, felt like, okay, it could be anyone, right? The virus could affect me, and I could just within 2 weeks be gone, right? The idea of being hereafter focused, that it's coming, right? And again, one of the biggest tricks of the devil, biggest tricks of shaitan, is not realizing that death is coming, not realizing that we have a lifespan, not realizing there is a hereafter, there is a reality beyond this reality. And how much do we focus and plan for that? Think about it. If you've done your 2021 plans and put down on paper, how much of your plans are real plans about how you plan for the hereafter? Now again, I want to repeat myself. Planning for the hereafter does not mean, okay, I'm gonna lock myself in a room and just be in a state of worship all day long. Hereafter focus, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that if you see the day of judgment begin, imagine this, imagine that the day of judgment starts, right? And in the Quran, Allah describes the day of judgment, basically the end of the world, everything's collapsing, it's like doomsday, right? Everything's just falling apart. Is that if you see the day of judgment start, and in the hands of one of you is a date palm tree, plant that palm tree. Now think about it. What's the point of planting that palm tree in this world if everything is going to collapse, if the day of judgment started? The Prophet Muhammad is teaching us that we should be purpose and impact driven, right? It's not about egocentricity. It's not about material results. It's not about how much my bank account is, but it's about purpose and impact. It's about, am I raising those children who will be great worshipers and great Muslims? Am I helping starting a business that's supporting people, that's actually helping families, helping society, environmentally friendly, impacting people? Am I, starting a charity, or am I writing a book that's actually beneficial versus just churning out stuff that might not be beneficial, right? It's about being purpose and impact driven. So I want to summarize this sort of two approaches to planning. I want to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to see in the comments of what you feel about these two approaches to planning. One approach, like I said, what I call is hustle culture. So hustle culture planning, right? And there's two ways, there's three pillars here. One is about me, myself, and I, right? Myself. And then it is about worldly focus, about stuff in this world. And then it's also very material results driven, right? Material results, or what I call image driven. And what I'm asking us to think about when it comes to our planning is slightly to think about barakah culture, what we call barakah culture. This approach of life that brings barakah, barakah meaning blessing, barakah means divine goodness, that has three pillars. One is God-centric. Two, it is hereafter focus. And again, hereafter focus means you align your plans for this world to help you prepare for this hereafter. And three, it's purpose and impact driven. I want to pause here. Does this make sense? And if you can type it, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, can you sort of share in the comments if this makes sense? This idea of shifting the way we plan. Again, like I said, planning is a blessing from God. Allah has given us ability to plan. It is part of human nature to plan. It's not unnatural to plan. It is part of who you are. The question is, how do you dedicate this way of planning? How do you dedicate this approach to planning? How do you how do you think of planning? How do you approach planning? That's what we're talking about here as well. So Yusuf Ahmed says, yes, it makes sense. Really appreciate that. Yusuf Ahmed as well. Appreciate you sharing that. Awesome. So Rahi Odus as well saying makes sense as well. Awesome. This is great. This idea of being, focus in the hereafter, focus God-centric, hereafter focus, purpose-driven. Now, I'm sharing this and you might think, okay, conceptually I get it, right? Okay, intellectually I get it. But what does that mean in practice? I'm here with my planners, my monthly planners, my life planners, goal planners, with my journals. There's so many journals nowadays in the world. And how do I sit and really plan according to this approach? How do I really start thinking about moving myself from doing myself and I, from being worldly focused, material results driven, to God-centric, hereafter focused, purpose, impact driven? And it's something that we started to share. In an article. Like I started this a year ago. It's an article that, let me just share this here. It's an article we wrote in beginning, I think end of last year, which was all about how to set goals like a gardener. How to set goals like a gardener. So again, I want to share a story here that would help you kind of bring this into perspective and talk about how to set goals like a gardener, because this method, this framework that I'll share with you, number one, it goes against the traditional framework of set a 20-year vision and work your way back 1 year, 5 years, 6 years, and then this is how your life should be. And if things don't go your way, well, it's your fault, you're the loser. To a much more healthy relationship with goal setting, a much more healthy relationship with planning, which I hope you'll find useful. So I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to share this inside the chat window for both Facebook and and YouTube so that you guys can copy and read this later. I'd love for you to take some time to read this, because it's quite useful to just, read this and not get overwhelmed by all the stuff that's happening there, inshallah. Okay, let me start off again with a story, because sometimes stories kind of bring this home much, much better, inshallah. So, and this came from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, talked about a story of a man who was walking in the desert. And when he walked in the desert, he looked up and he saw a cloud. And he heard a voice tell the cloud, go to such and such person's land and pour rain over that land. And this man looked up and he saw this cloud sort of moving in a specific direction. And he's like, whoa, this, what's this about? Like, where is this cloud going? So he followed the cloud. And he followed the cloud and he saw the cloud go above sort of this basically farmland, pour rain, and then just run off on his own. And this man was like, whoa, what's going on here? So he went and approached the gardener. And he asked the gardener, I just heard a voice tell a cloud to come to your land and pour rain. Like, what's the deal here? What's going on here? And he said, well, this is there's nothing special about me, right? There's nothing that I do that's special, except that every year when my crops come, when I get my harvest, I keep 1/3 for myself and my family. I reinvest 1/3 in my property, in my farm, and I give 1/3 to charity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then sent this rain specifically to this land. Now, what I like about this story, because this story not only is a story that has a lot of meanings, but also it has a lot of examples of how we should think of planning and how we plan in a God-centric, hereafter focused, and purpose impact driven approach. All of us are gardeners, right? All of us are gardeners. We all plan something. We plant something in our lives, whether what we're planting is the future of our children, whether we're planting is our financial wealth, whether we're planting is our relationships, whether we're planting is our businesses, whether we're planting is anything else. All of us are gardeners. And all of us set plans. All of us have those gardeners. And as a gardener, what do you start your garden with? Right? What do you normally start your garden with? You start your garden with what? With that seed, right? With that seed. And the Arabic word for seed is actually called niyyah, right? We all know the word niyyah. The Arabic word for seed is nawa, right? And nawa is very close to the Arabic word for intention, which is niyyah. So when we set goals like a gardener, we want to start off with intentions. What is our intention? So I'm going to write down the framework here so to make it easier for you. So setting goals like a gardener. We start off with intentions, right? Now think about it. As you came today, when you started to plan your 2020 year goal, most of 2021 year goal, right? Most start with goals. What I want from life, what I achieve, my objectives, my goals, right? I want to hit $1 million. I want to, live in this house. I want to get this job. I want to be married to this person. I want to have this, we have these specific images and specific goals. What I'm asking you to do instead is to think about intentions. What's my intention? Why, right? There are two meanings for intentions. One is the why that's driving you. Analyze that why. Why do I really want that $1 million? And people say, oh yeah, so I get $1 million, I give in charity. Like, you're right. Like, a lot of us, we say these things, right? I live in a big house so that, so I can live a happier life, right? Why? What is it? What is it that you want that you don't have right now? What is the why? Is it just for your financial security? Is it just for your, for you to feel like your ego, to feel like, oh yeah, I'm somebody? What is the why? And how can we make that why more connected to being a true abd, a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a true worshipper? Like I said, maybe coming back to a God-centric approach to planning. How can I make my intentions, whether it's the $1 million, whether it's the business, whether it's the house, whether it's the family, how can I make that intention more pure, more sincere? The idea of, we have an Arabic word called ikhlas, right? The idea of sincerity, doing something purely for God's sake, not wanting anything for yourself. That approach, I know it's hard. I know sometimes it's like, yeah, maybe not. It's very hard for me. But that's what we need to work towards. That's what we need to work towards. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't aim for it. You shouldn't so try hard for it. Even spend a whole life aiming to purify our intentions. That's a worthy goal. So set sincere intentions. Set those intentions. The second meaning of intentions, not just the why, but it's called, as Imam Ghazali says, the heartfelt desire. That determination that I really, really want to focus on this, right? I really want to focus on this. And this is where these two meanings come together. Because sometimes if your why is not strong enough, if your why is connected to elsewhere, to this world, for example, a lot of people sometimes they think I want to get to a certain position or get to a certain career level, or I want to get to if I get this house, if I get this, and you feel like I'll be happy then. And they get there and then they don't feel happy. They feel like something's missing. Because the why was very temporary. The why was connected to something that's very temporary, very worldly, versus connected to something everlasting, connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the why is connected to Allah, the why is about life, is about serving Him, which is infinite, right? Then every step in the way, no matter whether you succeed or not, whether you achieve a goal, you feel like you are in a state of worship. So whether you're writing a book or starting a business or getting married or having children, all that why, if that why is connected to serving God, it's like almost all the steps in there will be about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if things don't work your way or there are challenges along the way, again, we're human, we have challenges. Because your why is connected to Him, because your why is so sincere, you'll keep pursuing. You'll keep going. You won't just give up. Oh, forget it. It's not going to work out for me. Because you're sincere. You want this to happen. You'll push forward. Let's say you put the intention of memorizing the Quran, right? People set goals or memorize the Quran or learn Arabic, right? And again, sometimes those intentions are about ourselves. Oh, I want to be called known as a hafiz of the Quran. I want to be able to speak Arabic to my friends, right? It's about ourselves. It's about what I get out of it. But what if you switched your intention to say, my why is to worship Allah, to really make this something I serve Allah with? Then as you go through that challenge of memorizing or learning Arabic or doing anything for His sake, even though it's hard, even though it's challenging, but because your why is connected to a higher purpose, it will push you further. It will inspire you further. You'll be more determined to keep going and never give up and never give up. So can you see the difference between setting goals, which is very, very egocentric about yourself, and setting intentions, high intentions that is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and where this goes? Can you see the difference between the two and the impact between the two, right? The impact between the two about when you desire something purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake versus desiring something and it's there, again, you want something for yourself, right? And again, this is where it gets hard because a lot of us think, well, what's wrong with wanting, for example, a nice big house? What's wrong with wanting that $1 million? There's nothing technically wrong with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it's halal, if you earn it the right way, you can have it. But again, I'm here about talking about high aspirations. I'm here about reaching your highest potential, your highest potential to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not letting these goals, whether the house or the $1 million or the business, be a distraction from your purpose, a distraction from the hereafter. So when you get to the hereafter and get to Allah, and you're like, oops, I didn't focus on you enough because I was so distracted with my other goals I had in life. So this is what I would talk about. It's planning in this world for the next life versus planning in this world for yourself, and then when you get to death, you're like, as Allah says in the Quran, when someone reaches death, he says, oh Allah, send me back so I can give more charity, send me back so I have more purpose and impact in my life. So being God-centric planning is about focusing on intention, right? Focus on intention versus focusing only versus on these goals without that. I call intentions like the soul for an action. Think about intentions. Anything without intention is lifeless body, right? I can, for example, I can drink this water, right? So I can say, Bismillah, I can drink this water. I say, Bismillah. Actually, I need some drinks of water right now. Bismillah. Simple. I drank the water. It's an action, no meaning, nothing. I just drank some water, right? Or I can have an intention for drinking water, saying, I first say, Bismillah. I say the name of Allah. I drink this water in the name of Allah. I drink this water so that I can clear my voice, so I can speak more clearly to you all, so I can do this work even more better, so that for the sake of Allah. So drinking water or eating anything small or big, it can be elevated with intention. So start goal setting with like a gardener starts with intention. Like I said, the gardener starts his garden with a seed. The Arabic word for seed is nawa, and the intention word is niyya, and both are very related. The idea that it's a seed. And look at the similarity, the metaphor here. I can plant a seed, and this seed could become an oak tree, or it could be a dead seed. But what's important is that your role is to plant that seed. Your study, and some people have these big goals in life. They want to achieve, do so much for, they want to build massive charity organization. They want to build a mosque. They want to do like amazing things for the sake of Allah. Again, make sure the intention is clear, for the sake of Allah. But they feel like, oh, it's too much. I don't know if I can ever get there. Again, start with the seed, start with the intention, start with the why, start with that clear determination, doing something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake, and not to be distracted from that perspective. So that's the first aspect when it comes to setting goals like a gardener. The second approach is to think about the seasons, right? The seasons of life. Again, any gardener will tell you that some plants grow well in summer, some grow well in spring. Winter is not a good time sometimes to plant things. Again, every plant, every project, think about that perspective. Every goal in life, every thing you have in mind has a specific season. And you have to be aligned with your seasons, your personal season. Think about, for example, I was talking to a friend of mine recently. He said that he has his son, his eldest children becoming 7 years old. And he said that I feel like this is a season for me to really focus on my children, to focus on their education, to focus on their, that relationship with them before they hit teenagers and it becomes very difficult to, let's say, communicate with them. Someone else says, I have old parents. So I guess my season right now is to focus more on taking care of my old parents, right? Someone else might have we all go through different seasons of life. Sometimes, and this could be, and think about the spiritual seasons. Again, I'm not here going to talk about, the Hijri calendar, the Islamic calendar versus the Gregorian calendar. That's a different topic we'll talk about. But again, most of us are planning a 2021 year, goals. But have we remind ourselves, we're 3 months away from Ramadan. We're 3 months away from the highest spiritual season of the year. Have we started planning and aligned, realizing that season is coming and plan for that season, for example? If you're planning to go Hajj, all of us this year felt it when we saw those images of an empty Hajj and a very empty Mecca because of the COVID pandemic. And again, if you are thinking about Hajj, start saving now, start planning now, put those things in motion. So I think like aligning yourself with the seasons, your personal season, your spiritual season, your professional season, your the business season, how things are going up and down with business. Align yourself with the seasons. Don't, again, whenever the traditional goal setting framework happens, a lot of it is like, it's me, myself, it's me, myself, and I, right? I'm setting these goals of how, I'm setting these plans, right? And forget my season, right? If I don't care how old my kids are, I don't care how old my parents are, I have this goal and become so goal driven and not aligned to seasons. And then when things don't go our way, or if someone gets in the way, let's say you have a situation where, again, many stories of people who are so goal-driven that they missed very important life events, including death of parents or, these, illnesses that we should have taken care of because they're so obsessed with their goals. You need to be aligned with the seasons in life, whether your personal health season, whether, what are you going through life, align with that. That's the second approach. So the gardener sets intentions. The gardener aligns with their seasons, knows the plan, knows when to set their intention, their plans, their goals according to the season. The third thing that the gardener does is stay focused on the process, right? I'll put this together. Focus on the process, and they detach from results. Okay? What do I mean by this? Think about it. The gardener, when they wake up in the morning, they say, okay, what do I have to do today? What am I focused on today? Either they may be planting seeds or plowing or, taking out the weeds or, removing the pests. They are focused on the process of gardening. But no matter how good they are as gardeners, they cannot guarantee the fruits. If you tried gardening, or if you're a farmer, if you know of someone who's farming, they'll tell you sometimes, yes, of course, now technology, we can more or less control the outcome. Even then, some things go off. Sometimes this new disease that came up, or a hurricane came over just to destroy your crops. So something can come. You cannot really guarantee the fruits, the outcome of the work. And that's the mindset of how to set goals. That's the kind of the God-centric approach where you're saying, oh Allah, I'm sincere. I really want to do this for you. And this is the right season for it. And I'm going to focus on the process. Again, think about, some people memorize the Quran. Either you can be very goal-driven. Oh, I'm going to memorize Quran in 5 years or 2 years. And if you can't, you're like, oh man, I can't memorize Quran. Versus focus on the process. What's the process to memorize the Quran? What's the process to learning a business, to start running a business? What's the process I have to follow that will attract the result? I cannot guarantee the results. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تَحْرُثُونَ أَأَنْتُمْ تَزْرَعُونَ أَمْ نَحْنُ الزَّارِعُونَ. Do you see that seed which you sow? Talking about the gardener. Do you see that seed which you sow? Are you the one who makes it grow? Or are we the growers? Allah the grower, right? It's like, well, of course, He's the one who makes it grow eventually. All my role is to put the seed, put the intention, focus on this process of taking care of this plant, and the result's not up to me. And again, this can be hard. Again, think about it. Hustle culture approach, the approach of goal setting. If you set all these visualization boards and set all these like 10-year, 20-year goals, if you don't achieve 20-year goal, what happens? I've talked to people in the 50s and 60s who had these like vision boards and goals, all that stuff. And then some parts of life did not go as planned. And they always feel like this idea of almost depressed, almost feeling that they were losers, that they didn't work hard enough, that they didn't do anything. They could not. They feel like they were a failure. They feel like a failure. Versus realizing, wait a second, if I was sincere and I followed the process and I worked hard, I did everything I could, there's nothing else I could have done differently, then the result's not up to you. That's when the results come, you have two options, which is gratefulness if things work your way or better than what you have in mind, or perseverance and patience, that just keep going, keep improving, keep trying harder, right? These are two options you have. But for you to give up, for you to have sakhat, right, to be angry, to be upset that things didn't go your way, then that's not a healthy approach. That's not a very God-centric approach to gardening. And also another thing I noticed with this process approach, something that I've only learned recently, sometimes you start the process, you start the gardening, you start the seed, and you may not see the results. But guess what? Years later, either in your lifetime, or your kid's lifetime, or your great-great-great-grandchildren's lifetime, they see the results, the fruits of the work you have. Think about that, right? If we're me, myself, and I, and don't think about future generations, we'll get upset when things don't go our way because we want to see it in our own eyes in this life, in this world, versus saying, I might know what my intention is. I'm going to set my intentions. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to focus on the process. I'm going to leave the result to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know of scholars whose books, when they wrote their books, were not that popular. And in fact, they died, no one knew them. And then years passed, and then somehow the book became discovered again, and it became so popular that, if I mention their names, you'd be like, whoa, really? That person was not popular at that time? People were not popular at that time, known. Now they're known. Now they're like, this is next level, basically. So detach from results. I'm going to pause here again and make sure that we are getting this. So we spoke about 4 steps so far to setting goals like a gardener. 4 steps to plan in a more God-centric, hereafter focused, purpose, impact driven. Number 1, think of your intentions. Make sure they're sincere for Him. Make sure that you have that determination. Number 2, plan according to your season. Align your life with the seasons. Number 3, think of the process. Think of the process you have to do. Whatever it is, whatever intention you have, the goal you have, what is the process to get there? And detach from results. Again, pause here. Does this make sense? Is this something that's clear? Does this think about this idea of living a lifestyle that's more God-centric, that is more hereafter focused, ta'ala? Okay. Yes, Shazza, absolutely, right? The idea of, we won't see the results. I remember I was in Singapore and I was giving this talk about, barakah culture and all that stuff. And there's one person stood up and he actually made all of us cry because he said, we are living, the Muslims in Singapore, we're living, for example, at that time, he said, we are living because of the barakah of our great-great-grandfathers, right? How many of us can look back and think about our, generations ago and the intentions they've set up and the work they've put the process, even though things didn't go their way. Some of them died before they saw the results, but they actually saw the results way, way later, right? And that can be very, very powerful. So think about the process. Think about, versus the results, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad this is making sense here. Awesome. So let's go into the next few steps. The next few steps is, so we've talked about intentions, seasons, process, detach from results. The next steps is what I call seek the barakah. Okay, so let me explain this in a minute. Okay. Remember the story of that gardener who had that cloud go over his land and sort of pour rain over him? What does he do? He was giving a third of his harvest to charity. That's like 33%. Now think about it. If you're running a business, you're giving 33% of your profits to charity. Just think about it. A lot of us will think, we complain about high taxes, or we complain about, zakah, even 2.5%. But it's saying he's giving 33% to charity. He's giving a third of his wealth to charity. What was he doing there? He was seeking the barakah. He was seeking God's blessing. Barakah is Allah's blessing. Barakah is like a divine goodness. When barakah you're attracting the barakah, you attract God's blessing. So as you're going through the process, as you're setting the intentions, working hard, again, sometimes we set these goals and we want to achieve our goals regardless of the means, right? We're going to cut corners. We're going to lie. We're going to try to use unethical marketing practices. We'll do anything just so we can get our goal. Why? Because we are goals driven, right? It's about me, myself, and I don't care. I want to get to my goal first. I'm going to hustle, right? Versus I want to do the right thing. I want to be honest, right? I'm going to be, yes, maybe I'll lose sales, but I'll be honest about what I'll give. Maybe I won't get the right results in my life, but I'll approach life in a different way. I'll be honest I'll be ethical about things. Maybe my product might be a bit more expensive, but I'll make sure that it's certified, organic, make sure it's environmental friendly. It's not going to cause all these issues in the environment because of my goals of business. Yes, maybe, instead of me squeezing, right, my employees, right, and it's kind of squeezing the sweat out of them and not paying them, reasonable sort of wages, I'm gonna start thinking how to pay for their work properly, right? It's about doing the right things, right? It's about doing the right things and seeking God's blessing, even at a personal sacrifice, even at a personal cost, because you know that if you do the right thing, if you have the right intentions, you have the right mindsets, and your right values in life, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing that. And one of Allah's names Allah is the most thankful, Ash-Shakur. So he's saying, He's seeing me. Yes, maybe my business will fail because I was too nice, right? But I know I'm doing the right thing. And I shared this story many, many times before. There's a very famous fried chicken company in the city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia known as Al-Baik, right? Most of you who are going to Hajj, Makkah, Medina know about this restaurant. It's a very famous fried chicken restaurant. And the story is that the founder of that restaurant would give 1 riyal, which is almost like $1, 1 riyal in charity for every fried chicken he sold. And the funny thing is, the interesting thing is that for the first 2 years of his business, he was actually losing money. So think about it. If you imagine a management consultant trying to consult this company, like, why are you giving money to charity when you're making losses? It doesn't make logical sense. What are you doing, right? What are you doing? But he believed in the barakah. He said, no, this is part of the barakah. I know Allah will bring His barakah, will bring that divine goodness, will bring His blessing, maybe beyond my expectations. Now, he himself passed away 2 years later. He never saw the success of his business. Think about it. He never saw the success of his business. But his children now are like, their restaurant is super popular. And they're in many, many locations in Mecca, Medina, in Jeddah, and other parts of the Arab world. Think about it. He never saw the results, but he had the intention, the process. And that's why, again, back to my point earlier, sometimes you may never see the results, but because you have that yaqeen, that certainty in Allah's faith, and Allah will give you and provide for you and take care of you because you're sincere, you worked hard, you sought the barakah. And this means simple things like, for example, a lot of us have set goals, let's say for business or for certain personal projects, but then sometimes in our run and our race towards those goals, we neglect our prayers. We neglect, saying remembrance of God. We neglect charity. We neglect acting on our spiritual development. We neglect preparing for the hereafter. We become so obsessed with our goals, so obsessed with X, Y, and Z, that we completely forgot. And then when we get those things we always wanted, whether it's the bank account, the house, and you're like, why am I not happy? What's missing? Because the barakah is not there, right? Allah sometimes can remove the barakah, that blessing's not there, and you feel like something's not right. Something's just not there anymore. So this whole idea of setting goals, like the whole idea of seeking the barakah, is essential as part of a goal setting. When you set your goals, ask yourself, how will I attract barakah to this project? Maybe you want to start a charity, or start a business, or start a family, or any goals you set in life, or go on a course learning something. Ask yourself, how am I going to attract barakah to this project? What are the mindsets? What are the values? What are the rituals? What are the things I want to do to seek God's barakah? In addition to intention, of course, because intention is the most important thing, but also do things to attract the barakah. Just like that gardener who gave a third of his wealth to charity. All right, now a couple of more, and then we're going to wrap up because it's getting a little bit late here. Number 6 is to think very long term. Okay, the idea here is that a gardener, trees don't grow in a second, right? Plants don't grow in a minute. They take time. And you need to think long term. Think about sustainable farming, right? That if you want, you can, get really good crops in 1 year if you just sort of destroy the soil, right? But sometimes you have to think long term for the sustainability of something. And that's the same thing. Think about sustainability of your intentions, sustainability of your goals. But also, this is where that hereafter focus comes. Think very long term. Think, where am I heading with these goals? Where am I going? Is this goal something that I'm pursuing that if I were to drop dead today, will I be pleased with myself and think that, alhamdulillah, I've done my best. It is something that's hereafter focused. It is something that's impact driven. It is something that be carried forward. Also, what systems should I put in place to make sure that this project, this thing that I started, this intention doesn't stop with me? That this intention carries on so that I get the rewards for it. We know that Prophet Muhammad saying that when a person dies, everything stops, right? He doesn't get any more good deeds in his book of good deeds except for 3 things. An ongoing charity. So think about it. An ongoing charity could be anything. Could be a mosque, could be a school, could be an orphanage, could be anything you set, a hospital, a clinic, something you do that's ongoing charity on your behalf. And again, you can be very creative about this ongoing charity. You can live a website, right? That's going to be an ongoing charity. It could be anything. It could be a Twitter account or Facebook account, Instagram account that you use to tell people good stuff, right? Ongoing charity. Second one is children, right? Children that pray for you, that they love you and pray for you. That's another way for you to get good deeds. And thirdly is beneficial knowledge, leaving beneficial knowledge. So think about thinking very long term and setting your intentions so that maybe one of those 3 buckets. Okay, what can I do in next year, 2021, that's long term, that's hereafter focused, God centric, that maybe something with your children, something about your ongoing charity, something about some beneficial knowledge. It doesn't matter how, it's not about size here. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't look at the size of something. He looks at the intentions. What can you be sincere about? What can you be consistent with? What can you continue for a long, long time? That's what you want to focus on. Think very, very long term. And finally, I'm gonna wrap it up here as well, is keep renewing intentions, right? Again, intentions go up and down. You might start a project with the most sincere intentions. And we all know that feeling, right? We start a project with sweetest sincere intentions. We start a business, start a family, we have very sincere intentions. But we get distracted, right? Life gets in the way. We get busy. We get greedy. We get, the money starts pouring in, right? Things start happening. We're like, it starts getting to us. And the intention starts wavers, and we think, I'm doing it for other people. It's not purely about God himself. It's actually about yourself. And that can be detrimental. That can just ruin your garden. That can, ruin your crops. And we know the story in the Quran that talks about there's a father who used to give a lot of, again, a garden story in Surah Al-Qalam. A father used to take care of his garden, and then a beautiful garden used to allow the poor and needy to come anytime and pick up whatever they need from that garden. So for this to happen for years. And then when he passed away, the children said, you know what? We don't want these poor people taking all our crops. We just need to expand this business, right? So they made an intention. They just made an intention that tomorrow we're going to block off this garden. No more poor person or needy person can walk inside. It's our business, our garden. We're going to make it to a multi-million-dollar farm and forget giving to charity. Just because a switch in intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the night while they're sleeping sent a torrential sort of hurricane or rain or tornado that completely destroyed that garden. So when they woke up in the morning and they were going like, yeah, no more poor person, no one walk in here. We're gonna take care of our, it's our own garden now. They get there, they first thought they lost, but then realized, wow, it's our garden, and they realized the mistake. It's a switch in intention. So being very, very conscious about your intentions. And this is the thing about intentions. Only God knows your intention. Only Allah knows your intention. You can have the most beautiful, about mission statement, vision statement, all that stuff, but only God knows your real intention. And that's the beauty thing about the goal setting. When you do it from that perspective, you set goals for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, does this make sense? The idea of do these 7 steps here make sense? We spoke about today, basically we spoke about a lot today. We spoke about shifting from a hustle culture approach of planning, which is very egocentric, very worldly focused, very material results focused, to a more God-centric approach to planning, which is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about being a slave of God, being that deputy of God on this earth, and which is also purpose, impact driven, and hereafter focused, about the ultimate destination. And we said that how we operationalize this is we start thinking about intentions. We start thinking about the seasons of life. We start thinking about the process. We detach ourselves from the results. We seek the barakah, seek that divine blessing, think very long term, and keep on renewing our intentions, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open the doors, to keep us sincere and not be distracted. Does this make sense, inshallah ta'ala? Okay, awesome. Does this make sense? Great. Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, great. Well done. Thank you so much. Now, I want to give you a free tool that will help you take this into practice. Okay, we have this PDF worksheets called at productivemus.com/free planners. It has daily, it's like a daily checklist. I'm going to share my screen here. And let me just share my screen. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Nope, sorry, my bad. There you go. So in this daily planner, so you come to this website, productivemus.com/free planners. You just put your name and email, and I'll send you 4 things. A daily planner, and the daily planner actually asks you what you put your to-dos and tasks, and asks you what's your intention for this to-do and task. Again, remind you intentions, focus on intentions. And then the weekly planner reminds you of 3 months seasons. What is your season? What are your 3 months quote unquote goals? But it's about aligning with your season of life. Every season lasts only 3 months. So I think about the seasons of life. And then we have a habits tracker. Again, sometimes it's about the process, the habit, the routine, the process of doing something. And then we have this routine planner, which is actually very useful because it aligns with the daily routine of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which is a whole different conversation we'll have another time, inshallah ta'ala. If you get these 4 files, if you get this email, I will also send you a training video, free training video on how to use each of these. Or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can find these 4 videos, training videos on how to use these worksheets. These can be very helpful. Now notice I didn't have like a 10-year goal, a 30-year goal, or a life goals. I'm asking you because sometimes as a gardener, start thinking about your intentions, get in the habit from a daily perspective, maybe weekly perspective and 3-month goal perspective. And once you're in that habit, you can start thinking, oh Allah, what is next for me? Where do I want to go next from here? How do you want to go, inshallah ta'ala? Like I said, if you liked, let me paste this, inshallah ta'ala, inside of the chat as well. So it makes it easier for you to download and to basically start using right away, right? The goal plan, inshallah ta'ala. Awesome. Okay, so I hope you found this useful and beneficial. And I hope you sort of taken away from this webinar, from this live stream, a new perspective, a different perspective of planning, and just one aspect of planning. Now, most of us probably grew up thinking of planning in one way or another, but this is where we start to live what I call this barakah culture, right? This idea of a God-centric, hereafter-focused, purpose impact-driven approach. And really, I want us to start thinking about this, not just in terms of planning, but every aspect of our lives. And we have coming up, inshallah ta'ala, a productivity masterclass. We call Productive Muslim Masterclass, and which starts this Saturday. It's a 6-week program where we talk about how to manage your goals, how to manage your life, how to manage sort of your energy, your sleep. So if you go to, again, share the screen here, how to fulfill full life. Let me cover the topics here because it's easier. And you can watch this video later about what is the masterclass about, how does it work. It's a 6-week program, so it's a bit of a marathon, but it gives you the grounding in terms of how you manage your energy, your focus, and your time so that you can live this barakah culture every single day. So you go to productiveness.com masterclass. I want to share also finally a video of participants who went through this and the impact it had on their life. Sha'ala.
I am Fuad and here to share my experience about the Productive Muslim Masterclass.
I am very thankful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helped me come across this opportunity, because with this course I was able to solve so many problems at once.
Before the masterclass, I was struggling to stay focused. I lacked energy during the day. I was struggling to keep up and manage different commitments and also making new habits stick. I'd start with one habit, it would last maybe a few days or weeks, and then I'd be back to square one. Alhamdulillah, I joined the masterclass and it really helped me. It's been a year and I've seen drastic changes in my life.
I now understand how spiritual can be the source of the power of many roles for me as a woman.
Alhamdulillah, it was quite unique as it struck a balance in approaching productivity from the perspectives of this life and the hereafter. It has helped me kickstart this journey towards becoming a next better version of myself.
I found myself pursuing more to live a fitter lifestyle and take advantage of a barakah culture, taking leverage on pursuing barakah into my actions.
The thing that mostly influenced my life after this course is that to understand the Tawheed and its aspect in terms of our daily lives. It's very important to understand this.
The most important one for me was when I learned the framework and model of the nafs. This was something new and it laid the foundation for me to start managing myself from a different aspect altogether. I feel like I'm now in better control of myself.
So Productive Muslim provides us with the tools that help us to implement what the Quran teaches us in our particular situation. And we learn that the heart is the king, and if we can have the heart be the king and control the nafs, that will help us in this world and in the hereafter.
The material of training is very comprehensive. The way Coach Faris delivering the training is very engaging, and then the exercise is very applicative.
What also blew my mind is the amount of sincerity and dedication from the Barakah team to give you all the value, to support you all the way. Whatever thing they have in their hands, they can support you with, they will go with you extra miles.
If you haven't heard about barakah culture, fitra lifestyle before, well, that's one reason for you to take the Productive Muslim Masterclass in the future.
And for anyone who's considering taking this course, inshallah you take that leap and start your journey to become the next best version of yourself.
All right, so those were some really, really kind words from a lot of testimonials. We had over 400 graduates who've gone through this program. And I just want to quickly go through what we cover. Some people are a bit confused with what we actually cover in each session. Session 1 is all about defining yourself, it's about centering yourself and what it means to be a true slave of God. What is that framework we use for peak performance? How do you manage your energy, focus, and time for peak performance, not just at work, but across every area of your life? And then we talk about how you define your, what I call the next best version of yourself. Session 2 is all about spirituality and impact, your living your best self. We talk about barakah in more detail, talk about barakah culture and hustle culture, and some of the mindsets, the values and rituals that attract barakah in your life. Session 3, we talk about physical well-being. So this is where you check your bodies. Okay, how do I talk about sleep, nutrition, and fitness? Not from just a health perspective and all the tips and techniques, but really from a faith perspective, from a spiritual perspective. How do you manage your sleep, your nutrition, and fitness for living a barakah lifestyle and to maximize the potential of your body for the sake of Allah, for the sake of the hereafter? How to manage your focus. That's the big one. Talk about distractions, not just phones and internet, but even internal distractions, things getting in the way, or COVID hits, right? Life distractions, right? How to deal with those, and practical tips to boost your focus muscle, to be much more in flow, and to basically build a trusted system for yourself that allows you to stay more in focus. Session 5 is all about time management, but we're gonna flip the script on time management. It's not the traditional time management approach. It's about managing yourself, your energy and focus within the time you have, but also how do you plan your day, your week, your year with the gardener mindset that we talk about in this workshop, and the tools to manage that, inshallah ta'ala. And then session 6 is all about staying consistent. The number one question I get all the time is, Muhammad, I know I've done you taking your stuff, I love your stuff, but how do I stay consistent? And this is what the session 6 addresses, is to talk about why we should not rely on motivation, how to, and not or willpower, how to build those habits and routines, and also, again, the Islamic approach to habits and routines. And it's not about just the power of habits and 60 days to habit development, but it's much more the kind of the spiritual dimension of habit development, and most importantly, and beautifully with a detailed description of the daily routine of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, inshallah ta'ala, and how that applies to your life, inshallah ta'ala. So if you're interested, again, we are running the workshop. The workshop does start this Saturday, so registration will close on Saturday. If you're interested, go to productivemus.com/masterclass, and you can register today, inshallah ta'ala, and I look forward to having you inside. And even whether you join us or not, please do get your free gift. Thank you again. I appreciate you watching this, being live with us. So I want to make sure you don't walk away empty-handed. Get your free planners. Start thinking about how to plan life according like a gardener, with intentions, with the right, align the seasons, the process, detach from results, seek the barakah, think very long term, and renew your intent, inshallah ta'ala. With that, I want to again say thank you all for being part of this Living with Barakah show. I hope you found this useful, beneficial. I hope it changed your perspective, how to align our lives with barakah. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you in the upcoming months and years, that you start living like a gardener and start seeing fruits and results beyond your expectation. Ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallahumma hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.